Boys don't cry and Africa is not for sissies. Our phrase is often heard in the country. Now, author Sewela Langeni is challenging these social stereotypes. She's penned a book called Making Friends with Feelings to help boys express their feelings. Langeni is also the owner of Book Circle Capital. The Malville Bookshop focuses on African literature, and she joins us in studio now to extend the conversation. Thank you so much for your time, and a very good morning to you, Sewela. I love this. I mean, while we were on a different package this morning, I was actually taking time out to read this. It's such a cute book. But let's talk a little bit about this. I mean, you're raising two boys, right?
Yes.
Is it 8 and?
9 and 11.
9 and 11. So you've got
Yes.
two young boys in
Yes.
in a home, and you're raising them within a context where boys and feelings are not often encouraged, and boys
Yes.
crying and boys expressing themselves and boys feeling sad, it's not encouraged. But as a mom, why did you make this decision to actually go through this and pen this book and have these illustrations and talk a little bit about boys and feelings?
I think raising them and just watching them battle when they face like a tough situation, whether it's losing a match or somebody saying something hurtful at school, or just watching them trying to restrain themselves, watching them unable to explain what's going on, and maybe even restraining themselves sometimes, or even my reactions, sometimes to be shocked at how they react, was just like an epiphany for me to say, hey, but maybe this is something we should express. Also, growing up in a country like ours, where we see a lot of headlines, we hear a lot of things. Growing up in communities where you'd hear stuff like, "Windot, you're not supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that." It was just something that bothered me. I have brothers. I have two brothers. I'm a middle child, and just my relationship with my dad. I think it was just a culmination of things to just try and say, hey, maybe let's address this in a different way.
Yeah, but how are we faring in being able to address this? And the reason why I ask is that there seems to be still a little bit about toxic masculinity.
Absolutely.
That we're not tackling in society. There's still a lot of rooted, deep-seated toxic masculinity where my manhood is defined by the way that I have got this I don't care attitude, that you can't break me attitude, that girls are nothing attitude. That makes me cool amongst the men. And is it sustainable? Because I almost feel like these boys and these men, they express toxic masculinity, but I can't imagine what must be going on inside of them. Absolutely,
Faith, it's unsustainable, and research has shown that it's unsustainable. I actually brought this book with me by Dr. Maloselanga. He did a study he monitored about boys who were in the adolescent stage between the ages of 12 and 13, and he studied them over a period of 12 years until they become men. So that's why the title, Becoming Men. And he was just showing how this bravado you're talking about is actually like a mask for what's actually going on. So lots of issues that affect them, society, families, and he addresses various issues, where you only raised by a mom, but that isn't an indicator that you will turn out a certain masculinity. So all of it together. So we are still not doing well. If you look at the news headlines, if you look at our rates of gender-based violence, if you hear, I mean, I was in interaction with young people at work the other day, and I was just hearing the dating scene, the whole I don't care attitude, the whole, end game and whatever lists of people.
The mind games.
That was just shocking.
You're speaking about that. I was on social media the other day, and I saw a very known celebrity who was just putting up a photograph of him being a good father and was articulating the good things that he does for his partner. And what was so sad to see was that people could not identify with the reality of being a present good father. And I automatically look at that and I said, how broken is our society that being a good father, being a present father, being a caring husband is not something that is deemed as cool in society. That's a reflection on our brokenness, surely.
Exactly. And you can actually even get berated for doing that.
It's like you're not a man
if you're
a good person.
Or they're pulling you by the nose or something like that. So, and I think sometimes we catch these topics much later on in life. So this book was an intent to say, as we're raising sons, whether they're being raised by a single mother, whether they're being raised by a mom or dad, let's start making homes, our families, a space where we can talk about our feelings and process it and then move on to the next. Life will bring you stuff. There's that you can't run away from, but it's how you deal with it. And have that compassion and not shut it out. You know, we've seen so many cases. It's even done in movies where, oh, they'll tell a story of what happened when I tried to speak to someone and they shut it out. When we date later, we're wondering why people are closed off, but it started much, much younger. So it was an attempt to just say, let's start. I mean, it's by no means scientific, but it's just raising my own kids. And also, Faith, just being a bookseller, I wanted to say, I want to see a different boy on the cover. You know, I want representation. And they even ask me, they always ask, where are the boys, Mommy, on the cover? So it was part of that.
You know, I was reading this part and I loved it. And you know, the boy is what is Lubabalo. Lubabalo
Yes.
is the boy. And he says here, when I get home, I walk to my room dragging my feet because today was a sad day for me. My brothers are still quiet at school. Well, they're still at school and the house is very quiet. And then there's a picture of him crying. It's not popular. It's not popular to show little boys crying and having somebody actually speak to them and having them articulate their feelings. But then for parents that are listening to this and thinking, you know what, I completely agree with you, Sewela. We need to be able to focus on raising a boy child to be a holistic human being, a whole human being. But how do I start? You know, how do I have these conversations with my son? How do I start raising boys, especially being a single parent in South Africa?
I mean, books are a good start as well. When you read the book, following that, a conversation will obviously come. The book was launched last month, and already I'm hearing conversations from parents telling me, hey, this helped us to go there. You know, having creating your own space in the home where you ask, how was your day? Simple as that. How was your day? You will pick up some stuff that were not good. You will pick up stuff that was funny. And of course, also talk to professionals. I am by no means a professional, but what has worked for me is just creating a space for where my boys could talk to me. Starting from the minute I picked them up in the car. How was your day? What happened? In the morning, I would have known some of the highlights and I would have sensed what are the things that they are anxious about, whether it's a test or whether it's a trial. And then I'll ask, how did that go? You know, and then they'll tell me. So pick up just some of the stuff. And I mean, what it requires from us is to be present.
Present parenting, definitely. Listen, congratulations on this book. I think that every parent should have one.
Thank you so much.
In their libraries. Sewela Langeni there with the Making Friends with Feelings. It's such a beautiful book. It's the cutest book in the world. I was telling her that I need to have a son just so that I can get this book myself. It's an absolutely beautiful book, Making Friends with Feelings. Make sure that you get a hold of that one as well.